Good morning. It's a little before 8 a.m. on the east coast of Florida, and welcome to Coffee and Tea with OMG. All right, I can smell that. That is not coffee. That is cocoa.
It's cocoa. I admit it.
Yum. Oh gosh.
I'm only 12 years old.
You're a chocolate-aholic, by the way. I actually like that about you when I met you because
it runs in the family.
It does. And by the way, you can't see it off camera here, but Dracula is right there. He is doing sort of better, but still waking us up at like 4 a.m. So I have to say this. I don't know how other famous, we're not famous, hosts of things, or single or duets, do the news, do shows, do anything when you have such tragedies like what is going on right now in California with the wildfires. And, that's hard for us to make jokes or, make light of things.
Yeah. Well, we have family out there still.
We do. And Mike's brother lived out there really, well, again, Mike was a Navy brat, lived all over, but you spent the most time with family in California. You graduated high school there, and then your brother ended up staying there, one of your brothers, and he passed away 7 years ago, and he was up in what mountain? On Mammoth?
Mammoth Mountain area, ski resort.
Yeah, he's actually a famous
rock climber.
He climbed
extraordinaire. He's
the chief. What's the name of that one? The famous one?
El Capitan.
El Capitan. He was a ski rescue person. Yep. All these things. He's actually in books about things like that. Right. And a really cool person, and we miss him very much. But his widow and then your nieces, they all live out there in that area, and we checked on them yesterday, and unfortunately, they are safe right now. As far as we know, their homes are safe, but their grandma, the widow's mother, lost her home in Palisades. She lived in Palisades and they confirmed that the home is gone. She is safe, but she's got to be in her 80s, I think, something like that, or more.
Or more. I would
imagine. Maybe late 80s,
yeah.
Something like that. So again, just terribly. We saw last night Lawrence O'Donnell was talking, and his home, he isn't certain, but from what he can tell, he's in New York, but his home is in the LA area there, and he thinks it may be gone. And one of my sons, the one that's in Australia, he lived out there for quite a long time, worked with Universal Studios, was an actor, and I went out there to visit him so many times in Studio City, Burbank. All of those areas are so familiar. You and I visited those areas when we went for your brother, but my son said that he's talked to many of his friends, and they have lost their homes. And so, our hearts and thoughts and prayers, it sounds just so weak, but they go out to everyone there right now.
Yeah. It's tough.
It is really bad. And, when everybody tells their own stories of maybe what's happened to them, sometimes it can seem like they're trying to take over what's happening in these terrible tragedies, and that you don't want to do that. But sometimes I think they're trying to, say that they have something in common or that they understand. But everybody's story is different. If you haven't, been in it, we are seeing, of course, the whole issues about how many of them, had trouble or couldn't get homeowners insurance. And we know what that is like here in Florida. We cannot, you can't get it because after every hurricane, and we've been in so many, they won't cover you. They'll just drop you.
No, or they make it so hard to get. They have so many stipulations on things that it's impossible.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you have to have insurance. Especially, if your house is mortgaged, you have to have insurance. And it's tough.
And in Florida, for flood insurance, that's only if you have a mortgage. Some people don't have a mortgage, and they don't have, and it depends on what zone you're in. If you're in 100-year flood plan, things like that. Right. And the problem is that we saw they have had so little water. It was less than an inch since October, like 0.01 in these areas. And then the winds, nothing like anything they've ever seen. They always get these Santa Ana winds, but these were quadruple what they normally are. And I think the weather person said there was also a a high and a low that happened at the same time that made those winds drive through the mountains
Right.
and make it so much worse, to where it was a hurricane fire, a fire cane.
Fire cane.
Yeah, fire cane, they called it. Hurricane force winds that had sometimes reached almost category 5 in the gusts. Just horrific for everyone out there. And weirdly, here in Florida, even though we have the hurricanes and flooding and all of that, we can get super, super dry. And we have fire situations here.
Yeah. Well, 1998, Florida was pretty much the whole state was on fire. I mean, it was. They brought in firefighters from all over the country. They set them up at the airport to stage everything. Some of the local restaurant owners opened up their doors to give these firefighters a place to eat and sleep.
Yep.
I mean, it was insane.
They were heroes, just like they do in the hurricanes. They will have their heroes to us, these linemen that come from all over the country. But that happened in these fires. And I remember they were encouraging us to make kits, for them. And what they needed the most was socks. I remember that. Toothpaste, things like that. And you'd bring them to some of these staging areas. And the smell, even if you weren't quite near or in danger, the thick smell, depending on which way the wind was
Plus
blowing.
the ash was like snow.
And it would jump highways. Again, here you're talking about an area, of Central Florida closer to the coast, which is where we are. We are on the east side there. And it would jump 95, which is the major highway going up and down, the east coast there. And it'll jump. And there's so many trees and so much scrub brush that just catches fire so easily when there has been a drought or they haven't done any controlled burns, which they do that. But it's just kindling and out of control. And I remember at our farm, one time we had to go somewhere. I don't know why we had to leave. I don't remember why. It's the old farm. And these were going on at that time. And we packed everything up into bags, like hefty bags of our pictures, important papers, things that were, we couldn't do without, we didn't want to lose. We packed it up to the person that was going to watch our farm while we were gone. And we said, if you evacuate, because we were potentially, that was going to happen, we said, please, take this all with you. And of course, he had a plan for the horses, which is so difficult. And that is happening in California as well. Livestock and the horses, it's terrible. And I remember when we left, the horrible feeling of, I didn't know if we were ever going to see our home and farm again. And it's just terrible. But at that point in time, they would always let us know if you saw a little bit of smoke along the side of the highway, because if they can catch it small, it's so much easier. And you knew to call. People would always call, hey, there's a little something here, there's a little something there. We have all kinds of things where it'll have the Smokey the Bear sign and it'll say what the fire danger is, even here in Florida. And then whether you could or couldn't do burning, in your yards or property, all kinds of things about water usage when we're in these droughts. And so we're used to that. And recently, what was it, a year ago, 2 years ago?
It was probably a year ago. The neighbors behind us, we could see, it was nighttime, and we saw this glow in the backyard. Like, was somebody's house on fire?
I mean, it was huge because they have quite a bit of property around their house, but it's right behind us, and there's a lot of trees. Like, they're always falling on our side. But they clear them out occasionally, like massively with bulldozers, which is good. But it's all there, these giant trees and things, and they just went to burn it, I guess. And we look out the window and went, oh my God, how far were those flames going up?
They were probably 60 to 80 feet high.
Yeah. We're not talking about a little bonfire. It was like you're seeing, nothing like what these people are going through in California. But we were afraid. It was like, oh, this is coming to our house, to our trees. It's sparking everywhere.
The embers were floating over into our yard, so we called the fire department.
We sure did. So then we could see the fire trucks and everything, and they were there with their hoses putting it all down. I don't know what those people thought, but they came in and they hosed that all down immediately. So if you see something, say something, and our prayers are with them all. Have a good day.